Captain Elias Ward had worked alone on the edge of a quiet mining colony for almost 2 years, surrounded by red dust, silence, and the hum of forgotten machines. He liked the calm, the empty skies, and the sound of his own heartbeat in the vastness of space. But that morning, the stillness broke. A deep vibration rolled through the ground, strong enough to shake the metal tools off his workbench. He looked up and saw a strange ripple moving through the clouds like a wave of light bending the air. The colony sensors screamed with static as the ground split open near the ridge. Out of the smoke came a small figure, stumbling, covered in ash and glowing dust. It was not human. Elias froze for a second, his mind trying to process what he was seeing. A child, but not from Earth. The creature's skin shimmered faintly, like silver glass reflecting sunlight, and its large, frightened eyes glowed pale blue. It held a crystal close to its chest, trembling. Elias's first thought was to run, but when the child fell to its knees and whimpered softly, something inside him shifted. He ran to it instead, knelt down, and lifted the small body into his arms. The skin was cold to the touch, lighter than air, and the crystal pulsed in rhythm with the child's heartbeat. Suddenly, the sky darkened. Thick storm clouds rolled in, heavy with static electricity. The air crackled, humming with a strange energy that made his hair rise. From above, beams of white light flashed through the clouds, sweeping the ground as if searching for something, or someone. The child gasped, pointing upward, its small hand shaking. Elias looked up and saw enormous shapes moving behind the clouds, silent and smooth, their outlines barely visible. Ships, he realized. Alien ships. He didn't know if they were looking for the child or hunting it. Either way, he had no time to think. He sprinted toward the collapsed mining bridge nearby, the child pressed tightly against his chest. The storm was almost on top of them, wind roaring like an ocean. Lightning struck the ground behind him, blinding white light throwing sand and metal into the air. He ducked beneath the broken bridge, breathing heavily, and gently placed the child under a pile of metal beams for shelter. "Stay here," he whispered, though he wasn't sure the creature understood. The child looked at him, eyes filled with something familiar, fear mixed with trust. He could feel its heart racing. The ground shook again, and one of the alien lights fixed directly on their hiding spot. He could hear a low humming sound, closer and closer, like engines moving through the air but with no wind. He knew they had found him. He stepped out from the shadows, trying to draw attention away from the child. The air shimmered with energy, and a bright column of light surrounded him. His skin felt warm, and everything around him began to blur. He heard the child cry out, a soft, broken sound that echoed in his mind like a whisper. Then the light consumed everything. The storm vanished. The noise disappeared. There was only silence. Later, when the miners returned to the site, they found the area half destroyed. The bridge had collapsed, and strange markings were burned into the sand, symbols no one could read. All they recovered was Elias's damaged communicator, still faintly glowing with a soft blue light. Some said it was a malfunction, others believed he had been taken. But those who worked near the ridge swore they sometimes saw faint shapes in the clouds at night, something watching from above. And sometimes when the wind passed through the broken bridge, it carried a faint, echoing whisper that sounded almost like a child's voice calling out a name. Elias. When Elias opened his eyes, everything was silent. Too silent. There was no wind, no sound of machinery, not even the faint hum of air. He was lying on a smooth, silver floor that reflected soft blue light, his body weightless and his chest aching. Slowly, he sat up. Around him stretched a massive chamber unlike anything human hands could build. Walls pulsed with light like living metal, and strange symbols floated mid-air, shifting and glowing as if aware of his presence. He tried to move, but his limbs felt heavy, his head dizzy. Then he saw the child, standing just a few meters away, unharmed, holding the same crystal close to its chest. The child's eyes met his, and suddenly Elias felt warmth spreading through his body, easing his pain. A soft voice filled his head, not from the child's mouth but inside his mind. "Safe, now." He staggered, confused, whispering, "Where are we?" The air shimmered, and a new presence appeared. Tall figures, armored in dark silver and gold, their faces hidden behind glowing masks. They were soldiers, but not human. Each movement they made was silent and graceful, their weapons pulsing with quiet power. Elias felt his heart race. These must be the warriors who had been searching for the child. The largest of them stepped forward, holding out one hand, not in threat, but in salute. "You saved the air." The voice echoed inside his thoughts, deep and calm. Elias glanced at the child, who was now standing behind him, looking up at the tall warrior. The word air struck him hard. This was no ordinary child. "I didn't know," Elias said quietly. "I just couldn't let it die." The tall figure knelt before him, lowering its head in what seemed like respect. "Few of your kind would risk their life for one of ours," the voice said. "You faced the storm when others would have fled. The bond of life cannot be forgotten." Elias felt both awe and confusion. "Bond of life?" he asked, his voice trembling. "You carry our mark now," the warrior replied. As he spoke, Elias looked down and saw faint glowing lines spreading across his skin, like veins of light running beneath the surface. He tried to wipe them off, but they pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The child touched his hand, smiling softly. "You're part of us now," the voice whispered gently. Before Elias could respond, the chamber shifted. The walls moved, and suddenly a vast window opened above him, revealing stars so bright and close that they looked alive. Far below, he could see the red surface of his colony world, silent and still. The warrior raised one arm, and a holographic image appeared. Strange ships moving across space, fire and destruction following in their wake. "There is war," the voice said gravely. "The ones who hunted the air will come for us again, and for you." Elias clenched his fists. "Then let them come," he said, surprising himself. The words felt heavy, final. The warrior tilted his head slightly, as if studying the human's courage. "You have spirit," the voice said. "Perhaps that is why the air chose you." The child stepped forward and placed the glowing crystal in Elias's hands. The moment his fingers touched it, a surge of images flashed through his mind. Cities of light, alien worlds, and a promise made long before his birth. "You will stand with us," the warrior said. "Not as a servant, not as a prisoner, but as one of the sworn." Elias looked into the endless sea of stars and felt something awaken inside him. A strange certainty that his life would never be the same again. Somewhere deep within the ship, a low hum began to rise, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. The war was coming, and this time, humanity would not stand on the sidelines. Elias, once just a miner, had become something more, a bridge between worlds, bound by courage and a promise made to an alien child who would change everything. The ship trembled as distant explosions echoed through the void. Elias stood at the center of the command chamber, now wearing a sleek armor forged from the same living metal that lined the ship's walls. It felt strange on his skin, light, responsive, as if it understood his thoughts. Around him, the alien warriors moved with purpose, their silent communication filling the air with a strange hum. The child, no, the air, stood beside him, calm but determined, the glowing crystal still held close. Outside, through the vast window of the ship, Elias saw enemy vessels approaching, dark, angular ships slicing through space like blades. The largest warrior, the same one who had knelt before him, stepped forward and handed Elias a staff-like weapon. "You are bonded to the core," the voice echoed in his mind. "It will answer you when the time comes." Elias gripped the weapon tightly, feeling warmth spread up his arm, the glowing lines on his skin pulsing brighter. He wasn't sure what he was supposed to do, but somehow the weapon seemed to know. "They're coming," Elias said quietly, eyes fixed on the enemy fleet. "Then let them," the warrior replied. The ship shuddered again as blasts of plasma struck its shields, rippling waves of blue energy across the hull. "Evasive pattern!" someone shouted in their strange melodic language, and the enormous vessel twisted gracefully through space, moving like a living creature instead of a machine. Elias took a deep breath. Memories of his old life flashing through his mind, dusty skies, endless labor in the mines, the quiet loneliness of being forgotten. Now, he stood in the middle of a war between species, holding a weapon of impossible power, guarding a child who might be the key to peace or destruction. "Elias," the child's voice entered his mind, clear and soft. "They will try to take me. If they do, everything ends." He turned toward the child, his expression firm. "They'll have to go through me first." The alien warriors around him bowed their heads slightly, acknowledging his courage. Suddenly, the enemy ships began to open fire, releasing waves of energy that tore through the darkness. The alien ship's defenses lit up in a storm of light, but one blast broke through, striking near the command deck. The impact threw Elias to the floor, his weapon sliding across the room, the air filled with sparks and smoke. The air cried out as the chamber lights flickered, and for a moment, Elias saw the fear in the child's eyes, the same fear he had seen the night he found them. Summoning every ounce of strength, he grabbed the fallen staff. The glowing veins across his arms flared like fire, and the ship itself seemed to react. The walls vibrated, the symbols pulsing faster. "The core responds to him!" a warrior shouted telepathically. "He's connected!" Elias didn't fully understand what was happening, but instinct took over. He raised the staff, and a beam of blue light erupted from its tip, forming a barrier around the ship. The enemy fire struck it and disintegrated into nothing. The warriors looked in awe. "Impossible," whispered the leader. "No human could—" But Elias wasn't listening. He could feel the ship's heart, its pulse, its will. It was alive, and it was listening to him. He thought of one thing: protect them. The ship obeyed. Light burst from its surface, spreading like wings, and in a single thunderous moment, it unleashed a surge of energy that scattered the enemy fleet like dust in a storm. Silence followed. Only stars remained. The warriors stood frozen, their armor gleaming in the afterglow. Elias fell to his knees, exhausted, the weapon dimming in his hand. The air ran to him, placing a small hand on his chest. "You saved us again," the child whispered, voice trembling with gratitude. The leader approached, removing his helmet for the first time, revealing calm, bright eyes that seemed older than time itself. "You are one of us now, Elias of Earth," he said solemnly. "Your name will be carried in the songs of the Imperium." Elias looked up weakly, a faint smile forming. "Songs, huh? Just make sure they get my good side." The warriors let out a sound that might have been laughter. Outside, the stars shimmered brighter, and the vast ship began to drift toward a new sunrise over a distant world. Elias watched the light spread across space and whispered to himself, "Maybe saving one life really can change the universe." The air stood beside him, eyes filled with light. It already has. And as the great ship disappeared beyond the edge of the galaxy, the story of the human who defied death to save an alien child was carried across worlds, a legend of courage, compassion, and the unbreakable bond between two very different beings who proved that even across galaxies, humanity still meant hope.